Alright, so the package has arrived. This is from Legend London. It is a UK-based brand, obviously, from Legend London. So they sent me a bunch of clothes. I haven't really rocked this style yet, but I'm excited. I think it'll look good. I usually wear a karate gi or like t-shirt and sweatpants. That's like the most my wardrobe goes. So I'm excited about the upgrade. Let's check it out. They have really hooked it up. This is a hoodie. This is a tracksuit. Look at these pants right here. Sensei's actually gonna be stylish for once. The bottom of the tracksuit, a hoodie, you got some t-shirts. So I'm gonna be hitting up one of my good friends, Albert. He's a black belt and he's a police officer and he's a photographer and he can like dunk a basketball. He's recently a father, he does everything. So you see a little behind the scenes from the shoot and some information about where you can shop for this. I'm on their Instagram, on the website, and they got this is all like the new drop. This is, I believe most of this is the new stuff, so enjoy. Oos. Here we are, behind the scenes of the photo shoot.
Lost is Found studio.
Lost is Found, Rare's Logic.
Albert. Rare's Logic.
The throwback. I put out some throwback videos. Look at the attire, guys. Look how tight these pants are. But I'm feeling the swag. Alana, can you
The other shot is dope.
record a little bit? Where should I stand?
Just stand. Come here. Come back. Up one. Get in the middle of the stairs. Shoot is complete. You can find his Instagram, you can do photos if you're local, I guess. Unless you want to fly him out. Worth it.
But yeah, so I'll catch you guys later.
I'll take him with me.
Oos, everybody. Welcome to Sensei's Sports Science channel. All right. I know that was incredibly cringy. Hopefully you can't hear that car out there. Okay, so it's a little bit of a different video. I'm here at the dojo right now. If you don't know already, I love watching combat sports, boxing, martial arts, all that good stuff. And there's times often where I want to make videos talking about, martial arts more in depth and the things that I study and like to learn about. I don't really consider myself an expert in any way, but I do consider myself a student of the game, and I like to study all forms of martial arts as much as I can and just learn about what makes good fighters and what makes things effective and not effective, and just try to learn as I get older and become a better martial artist. So Deontay Wilder has generated this aura about him, about just knockout power. I believe he's like 95% KOs. I think he's 41 or 42 now. KOs that he has, and he's just developed this freakish power, this freakish ability to knock somebody out. So for those of you who are just wondering about how does this guy get so much power, how does he generate so much power even though he looks kind of thin, how is he so consistent with landing that one punch, or if you're a martial artist yourself or a boxer who wants to implement some of this stuff into your game. So I chose this topic because I feel like it could relate to you personally in different ways as well. It could impact your life in many ways. For example, when I made the video about Deji and KSI and their relationship issues, I felt like I could also talk about it in a way that made an impact in your personal life. So Deontay Wilder's power has become so unique, and the way he goes about it is a bit unconventional. First of all, Deontay Wilder has this reputation that he's just a terrible boxer in terms of technique, right? He's just wild and it's just all power punches, and he just kind of throws strikes and just goes crazy, and that's how he gets his knockouts. And however, I have a different opinion. I think he's very strategic. Part of it is what we call a smoke screen, is to hide that one right hand. Most of the time when you have like a wild puncher, they are wild in terms of where they throw the punches, and he does that. But the shot that he's effective with is a super straight right hand. It's a very clean punch. It's a very sharp, good technique punch that he lands. And then when the person's rocked, he tends to just go crazy. But other than that, that right hand is one of the best right hands, if not the best and most dangerous right cross we've ever seen in boxing. So let's talk about how we can get power in our punches, how we can land that nice KO. Number one, torque. How does he get the torque? Deontay breaks a lot of rules when it comes to boxing. And a lot of the great fighters did that too. Muhammad Ali would fight with his hands down on his toes, leaning and doing stuff that the regular person can't do. You can only do it if you're super great. So typically when you're taught to throw a punch, right, your guard is up, you bring your punch straight out and bring it right back, right? You bring your cross out and then you bring it back, right? So it has like an end point, then you bring it back. It has an end point and then you bring it back. And if you do a jab cross together, jab, you punch out, end point, and then you bring it back for the cross, right? It's such a basic and simple combination. And you can't see my feet right now, but you guys can imagine. Usually when we jab, we step with our front foot and then we cross, our back foot then engages, if you can hear. So it goes 1, 2, right? It happens different ways, but that's most of the time what it is. Deontay tends to reach with his front hand. And the reason that's important is because if you look at someone throwing a baseball, a javelin, a football, a shot put, anything that you're throwing, you tend to reach out with your front hand and extend your body into a nice bladed stance. And then you snap that hand back to fire, whether you're throwing something, right? It doesn't matter what it is. So imagine how much power you would lose, right? If you took your front hand out as a baseball player or as any type of throwing mechanic. If you took that front hand, brought it back, and then threw the backhand. Imagine it wasn't like a reach and then all the way throw back. Imagine it was like a 1, 2, and then you threw something. It wouldn't be as effective, right? You don't get the same amount of torque because you're recoiling and keeping that elbow in tight, obviously for defense in boxing, but you lose some torque on that. So Deontay tends to paw and reach with that front hand, and then he pulls that hand back for a tremendous amount of power. So he's not really losing power from that jab cross. He's reaching out, and then he's pulling his hand back, and then snapping back. It's actually a very traditional move in karate where we have, that push and pull action. We learn that push and pull for like board breaking or just to develop power in our rear hand. Very ineffective for combat, but we learn how to generate the torque and the power in the body. So it's very unconventional because, typically in boxing, you're not being taught to leave that hand out there, to reach out there and then pull that hand back for a lot of power. You're taught to bring the hand out back, cross, or boom, boom, put them together. You're not taught to reach the hand out and then boom, or kind of play with the hand and then boom, and do that. And he generates a lot of power. If you practice it right now, if you do a jab cross, or if you leave your hand out there, really pull that shoulder back and then boom, and then cross, you're gonna get a lot more power and torque. And when he reaches, he ends up telegraphing his right hand a lot, right? He's reaching with that front hand, he's pulling that shoulder back. And sometimes when you jab, you can throw it all the way out and it does it for you, but he's often not jabbing. So he's able to hide that right hand, and sometimes just reaches his hand out and paw, and you don't see that he's already loaded there. So then he just fires it right from that position, and he's able to cover a lot of distance in a short amount of time and generate a lot of power. So if you're practicing hitting the bag or even the air, just see, if you try to feel the difference. Now, the second thing that I find to be very unique, and I think most people don't notice, is hand trapping. So when he's reaching, he's looking to hook your front hand, whether it's the inside or it's outside. Most commonly he uses it on the inside. He kind of tends to paw, slap the hand and jab with it, and then he'll shuffle forward and try to catch that, or he'll jab past your hand, past your guard, and then if your face is here, and then he'll try to catch your arm on the way back and use that, right, to pull in and fire his right cross. So he'll reach, snap, boom, and then fire the right hand over the top. Now what that does is that when you have your defense, you want to move, but when that hand gets pulled, you tend to resist. So it kind of freezes you up for a second. The natural reaction when someone grabs your hand is to pull your hand back. So even if you're trying to lean away, when you pull, it freezes you for a second, and it's really effective to try to land a fast, straight shot. He does it if you're southpaw. If you're this way, he'll pull this hand down and try to land the right hand right in between. And if you're this way, he'll try to pull the hand forward and land the right hand over. So hand trapping is a very big part of his game, because without that, he wouldn't be able to freeze his opponent for that split second that he needs, right? They'd be able to still retreat and still lean back. He's able to get them to sit there and pause for that, and tense up, especially for that split second, and then bam, it's lights out. So in your sparring, it's a good way that you try to land that jab, or just touch them with their jab, or get your hand in front of their guard, right? You get it in between their guard, and then what you're doing is you're just reaching and just doing a quick pull to pull into that punch, right? You're pulling that arm back as you fire that hand over. And when it comes to knocking somebody out, if they're tensed up and you hit them, it's much easier to knock them out, especially if they're not leaning back. If they're resisting on something, the knockout chances just go through the roof. Now, the last thing is his timing. his broken rhythm, I do believe that his whole style of like having no defense and covering and having this laid back, like very non-traditional style, I believe it's a part of him trying to lure you in so that he can land that right hand. He's trying to build your confidence. I think he's trying to trick you into making you feel comfortable and confident and standing still and moving forward, because broken rhythm is important, especially in landing a punch and you're trying to catch your opponent off guard. So when you see him land that power punch, it's a clear difference in energy and movement and speed from when he's doing, the rest of the fight. The first few rounds or whatever it is, he's just kind of moving around and, pawing out and trying to throw some punches and boom, boom. And then when he really finds his opportunity, he really blitzes forward and changes gears really fast. And he's not just doing it randomly. It's very clear that he's seeing something. He's looking for, you falling asleep or just lulling just for a split second, and then he can just jump on you. So I think it's important that he kind of lulls you to sleep and has this kind of lackadaisical thing, and you're landing kind of punches on him, grazing, and he's bouncing off the punches, off the ropes. He's not someone who's extremely grounded and moving and very active like a Mike Tyson or something as a combination puncher. He's not trying to, really fake you out with speed like a Manny Pacquiao, like a lighter weight, or other guys who are just trying to be really active. He tends to be really slow. It's like he's trying to do a change-up. He's trying to really lull you. So his broken rhythm and his timing are so important for a knockout, because he catches people off guard. It's not like he's just overpowering you. It's like Mike Tyson would just smother you with shots, right? And it's just a combination you can't keep up. He's really lulling you. You think that you're okay. He's baiting you into it, and then boom, he jumps on. George Foreman was someone who would do that. He would kind of just keep his hands up and try to push you and walk through your punches, right? It doesn't look like he has any real defensive movement. He's just kind of throwing his arms up and trying to keep him in the way of your punches. And it kind of makes you feel like, oh, I can catch this guy. You hit him a few times and you think you're good, and then boom, they wait for their opportunity to really land a heavy shot. If you noticed in the Ortiz fight that just happened, I believe Ortiz landed he just landed his best combination. And he had that confidence, that false sense of security, where he landed a good combination, and then Deontay's just kind of doing this and moving and falling back, and he's backing up, and then now Ortiz is walking forward. And you want to collide. When you land a punch, if you want to KO somebody, you want them to collide into it. If they're leaning back, that's why Tyson Fury never gets knocked out, right? It's hard for him to, because he's always leaning away and moving away and riding the shot. So it's hard to catch him good because he's not moving into it. So he kind of lulls you into it, and then Ortiz is, kind of relaxed and throwing his shots, and then boom. And if you notice, Ortiz actually parried his hand. He was in a southpaw, and he parried it with his lead hand. And you can tell that Deontay knew it was going to be parried, because you can see in the slow motion, it was perfect timing. He was kind of pawing away, trying to snatch at it, and then he brings it out, already ready to throw. And as soon as Ortiz brought his hand down to parry, he brought it right over. It wasn't like he parried his hand out the way and then he came with the right. You can see as soon as he made contact, that hand, boom, that right hand came right after. It was broken rhythm. We call it a half beat. So you're going, instead of boom, boom, jab cross, it goes, right? You cancel that jab midway, and then you fire that cross full power all the way through, and he just wasn't ready, right? He didn't get there in time. And I'm someone who believes that Deontay does that on purpose. I believe that he's looking for that opportunity and looking for just to skip a beat so he can catch you. And then when he catches you, he's throwing at full power, so you're gonna go out. Now, the other big rule that Deontay breaks is the one that you see all power punchers break. When you're first learning to punch, right, you're only supposed to hit 2 inches past your target, right, and then bring it back. The recoil is important, right? You recoil, you hook, you recoil. You're not supposed to go all the way through when you punch. You're not supposed to go all the way through in your uppercut or your punches, right? You're supposed to fire and recoil, or recoil and then weave, right? Do your combination, recoil, and then move again. There's a sense of recoil. And Wilder does not recoil at all. That's why he looks so unique and so wild when he punches and looks so unorthodox. But if you think about it, if you were going to throw a baseball or a football or a javelin or whatever, and you're going to throw it as hard as you can, the last thing you're going to do is recoil when you release the ball or whatever it is you're throwing, right? If I'm a lefty or throwing a football, I'm not going to throw the football and then recoil my hand, right? It doesn't make any sense. I would lose a lot of my hip power and my rotation and the drive because you're trying to anticipate and account for the recoil. So often what happens is, especially the jab, we're going here, we're pulling it back. We go jab cross, we pull it back. So we don't realize we're not fully committing to that punch because it's dangerous to, right? And it's safer and it's better technique so that you can move and do different things and be faster and more effective, but you lose a lot of power. So Deontay, he's reaching, looking for his opportunity, and when he punches, he puts his whole body weight, there's no recoil. He's punching, he'll fall into you, he'll switch his stances and throw a left hook or something, or he'll just kind of frame off or just, collide and clinch or whatever it is, or just try to use his head movement to get out of there. So he generates so much power because he's fully committing on the punch. There's no recoil on those right hands. There may be a few that he did, but for the most part, he's just following. He's just like he's throwing his fist into you at full power. So when it lands, it's gonna just destroy anything in its path. And another big power puncher, if you look at the old school guys, right? George Foreman, Sugar Ray Robinson, those guys they were so fast and strong, but when they would punch all the way through their target, And if you're good enough, you can get away with it at times, especially if you land the punch. You have to practice both, but it's very clear that Deontay is purposely trying to put all his weight behind it. So when he lands the punch, it's lights out. It is high risk, high reward, but he mentioned it recently. You have to be perfect to beat him for 12 rounds. He only has to be perfect for 1 second. So for me, I don't really see Deontay as like just power puncher in both hands and he can knock you out with any punch. Whereas like Mike Tyson, I felt like he'd hit you with an uppercut, a hook, his combinations, like Canelo combinations and stuff, he would smother you with and land the shot that you can't see and get around you and stuff. Deontay just has this perfect combination of things to line up his right hand. And I really believe that's people who are overconfident. They think they're okay. He's very good at making it seem like he's not that great of a boxer and that, I'm beating him, I'm up on the card, and then boom, he wasted that one opportunity where he lulls you to sleep and he knocks you out. I do think that if people respected him more as a boxer and as a knockout artist, that they wouldn't get caught as much. I think people just tend to stand there. Look at his last knockout. People are like standing tall right in front of him. And if you watch Deontay, he can close distance like this. So I think if someone really respected him and boxed them and really made sure they were nowhere near that right hand and they could do that for 12 rounds, that he would have some trouble. He'd have to chase you around, just like you saw Tyson Fury do. Wilder just met him as he went down with a nice little broken rhythm again. And, he got back up, of course. But Wilder is a master of timing. Also strategy to get you to lull you. And also using hand trapping and then just committing on his punches. Very unconventional. So the point is, you don't have to always follow the rules to be successful. If you're breaking the conventional rules, but you're doing it for good, right? Not breaking the law, doing anything negative, but you're breaking the rules and being unconventional because you believe in it and you believe it represents you and you believe it could still be effective and you can still make it happen, then do so. Deontay Wilder is a guy who shot up the ranks and was able to, fight at the highest level within like a year or two, the craziest story, and doing things that no one has ever done and doing it in a way that no one has ever seen before. And if you listen to him talk, he has this confidence about him and he knows what people think about him and he doesn't care and he goes out there and he does it anyways. I think it's pretty simple. You just got to make your own path. Don't expect anything from anybody and trust in hard and smart work. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys soon. Oos.